Hey Bookaholics, so welcome back to another video. Today I am bringing you the mid-year tag. The mid-year tag is where I just go answer some questions and get to review the year a little bit. I did do a series check-in very recently, so I will go more in depth about series that I've started, DNF'd, etc. over there. And I did also squeeze in some statistics in there as well. So any of the series conversation will be had more in depth over in that video, so I will leave that linked. So this is just me answering some questions about books that I've loved, that have disappointed me, excited me, etc. So without further ado, getting into the questions. And the first question is best book of the year. Now, because I'm a series binge reader, I tend to keep this one for standalones, just because series have so much more opportunity to stand out, I think, than standalones. So I do like having a segment in which I can talk about the standalones on their own. So my favorite standalone this year so far has been The Book Eaters by Sun Yee. This is one that it depicted motherhood in such a fascinating way. It depicted neurodivergency in an interesting way, and I just really enjoyed everything about this story. The way it was told, the writing style, the characterizations, everything landed for me 5 stars, and it lived up to all of my hopes and expectations. For those of you who don't know, The Book Eaters is a somewhat pseudo-vampiric story in which we are in a world where there are these vampire-like creatures that are book eaters. Now, book eaters, as it says on the tin, consume books for sustenance. However, occasionally within the book eaters, they may instead produce a mind eater who needs to consume people's minds for sustenance. And we are following a mother who has given birth to a mind eater, meaning that she will be permanently separated from her son, and that is not a fate that she wants. So she runs away with her son. However, now she needs to ponder what to do. On the one hand, she can feed him people that will leave them in a vegetative state. 2, she can let him starve. 3, she can return to their people and face their separation. None of those sound appealing to her. However, one of the other clans of book eaters has the possibility of a cure that would allow him to consume books instead of minds. She begins to seek them out. The story is told in 2 timelines. The first one being the further back timeline when she is a child living amongst the book eaters, and the other is when she is a fugitive on the run with her son. Question number 2 is best sequel. This year I have a 3-way tie. Don't think I've ever had a 3-way tie before, but here we are. I have 3 books that fit this bill. I'm going to do them in the order in which I read them so that there is some kind of order. The first one being The Shadowed Sun by N.K. Jemisin. This is the second book in the Dreamblood duology, and I think the Dreamblood duology is now my favorite N.K. Jemisin series. In this story, we are following a city in which there are dream gatherers, and the gatherers are there to help you pass on to the next life, to heal your mind, and they are a medicinal / religious order. However, when someone seems to be sending people into the nightmare realm instead of into the dream realm, our protagonist needs to go investigate what is happening. So much more happens from there. It's a very political story as well, and it has criticisms on medicine, on politics, on politicizing of healing. We also have discussions around what is basically euthanasia as well, and I really loved this series. The next one that I have on here is The Veiled Throne by Ken Liu. This is the 3rd book in the Dandelion Dynasty, which is an epic fantasy tetralogy which consists of a fantasy historical reimagining with steampunk elements of the fall and rise of a dynasty. We are following a tyrannical emperor who is on his deathbed, and therefore we are following 2 young men who are seeking to supplant him. The first one being the vengeful son of a deposed duke, and the other a charismatic young man with very few prospects and everything to gain. This series follows on so much more from there. I do have dedicated reviews for both of these first 2 series, so if you want more thoughts, go check out those reviews. And then the final one that I have on here, I do not have a review for yet because this is very recent, but that is The Memory of Souls by Jen Lyons. This is the 3rd book in the Chorus of Dragons series. This is an epic high fantasy series in which we are following Kirin, who is discovered to potentially actually be the lost son to a noble family. However, the reason that his noble family are actually interested in him is that he is is actually part of a prophecy, but he is not prophesized to save the world. He is prophesized to destroy it. We get this from the perspectives of multiple characters, mostly from Kieran, but we also get the way the author plays with timelines and narratives. So we get lots of what happened before and what is happening now going on, which I think worked really well for building tension for the narrative. This is the story where the first two books are almost following two different stories. We're following Kieran on the one hand, and then in the second one we're following Janelle, and then in this one it's where their two plots actually come as one and really push forward the plot. So this is like first step into the real truly epic scope of this story, which I promise you, when you're reading the first book thinking it can get more epic just seems unimaginable. And yet in came Memory of Souls, and it was just incredible, and I am so glad that I read this series. And yeah, I have 3 series on here that I absolutely adored this year. Question number 3, we have a new release that you are excited to get to. I think the obvious ones for me would be Mirrored Heavens by Rebecca Roanhorse, since it is the last book in the Sky and Earth and Sky series, and that means that I can get to that trilogy. And then the same can be said of the last book in the Empire of the Wolf series by Richard Swan, which means that I can also then get to that trilogy. So I'm not really excited for them because those are books that I want to get to immediately, and more that I am excited for them because they are then books that mean I can binge a series. The next question is, what are some of your most anticipated releases? I do have a whole video where I talk about all of the anticipated releases that means that a series will be concluding this year, which I will leave linked down below. But in terms of ones that I am really excited for that aren't mentioned in that video, the first one is one that's not mentioned in that video because I didn't know it was going to exist and I'm super excited for it, and that is Witch Wife by Lumen Reese. I have now read 3 books by Lumen Reese and own another that I'm hoping to get to very soon. I'm really excited for Witch Wife. It's the first book in a series, and it's just one that everything about it looks like it's right up my alley, and I can't wait to dive into it. And then the other one is the 3rd book in the Miss Percy's Pocket Guide series, which is therefore the conclusion to this trilogy. I am really excited to get to it. The cover released really recently. It's supposed to be coming out summer, so I'm hoping to get to that one really soon as well. The next question is, what is your biggest disappointment of the year? For this one, it's probably got to be Illborn by Daniel T. Jackson, solely on the basis that this is a series I was really excited to be getting into. I've heard such amazing things about it, and I just couldn't get into it. Like, I kept avoiding reading, I kept not wanting to pick up the book, and in the end I just DNF'd it, not because I could really even pinpoint any one thing that I actively disliked about it, and more just that it wasn't engaging me. However, biggest surprise to me has definitely got to be Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. I have read Mistborn and then I have reread it this year, and it's really just not my thing. There's nothing inherently that I think is badly done. There are just things that don't work for me personally in that series. So then I was kind of under the impression that maybe I'm not much of a Sanderson girl because Mistborn is a lot of people's favourite Sanderson. So then when I read Elantris, which seems to be a lot of people's least favourite Sanderson work, I gave this 5 stars. It's the first 5 stars I gave out this year. The shock that I had could be reverberated across the planet. However, I really loved this. I was really surprised by that, so it's got to be the most surprising read of the year. The next question is, what's a new favourite author? Now, like many, for me, a new favourite author needs to be someone who I have read multiple of their works. For example, I can't have only read one series by this author, I need to have read other works by them. Now, this is an author where I have rated one of their books 5 stars and one of their books 3 stars in the past, and then lately I have been really enjoying their works, and that is Naomi Novik. I have been reading through the Temeraire series by this author over the course of this year, and I've been really having a good time with it. I've been reading it as part of a group as well, which to me just really enhances the reading experience. So for the most part, this was just one that was really fun to sink into, and therefore I think that I would be really happy to pick up anything by this author in the future. The next question is, who is your new favourite character? And to me, that's got to be Kieran from the Chorus of Dragons series, the protagonist of this. Everything about him, he has this temper, he's really eager to push people's buttons, he is a bit hot-headed, but at the same time he's actually quite smart, and he's really adorable at the same time. Like, the way he cares for the people he cares about is so cute, and the way he antagonizes people that you hate, you're just here for it, even if you're like, that's stupid, but I would also be that kind of stupid. And I love that about him, so I'm with it. I understand why everyone loved Kieran, because I do too. Next question is favorite one true pairing or OTP, and for this year I'm probably going to go with Callum and Evelyn from Soul of a Witch. This is the third book in the Souls trilogy by Harley LaRue. I've been trying to work my way through reading everything Harley LaRue's written because I've really enjoyed their writing style, and this was my favorite pairing from the Souls trilogy. I love their dynamic. I love what it plays with in the narrative. Callum is a very interesting book boyfriend, I think, because he's this domineering and assertive dude on the outside, while at the same time within the relationship he's the more submissive one, but so is she at times. Like, they have like a really interesting balance of dom sub. There's no one that is like super clean cut dominant over the other, which in BDSM can sometimes feel a little bit oppressive. I didn't feel that at all, and I really liked that. The next question is a book that made you cry. I feel like I'm not going to surprise anyone at all when I say that would be Speaking of Bones by Ken Liu. At this point, I don't know if I was crying really because the scene was like super sad. I mean, it was. I'm not saying it's not. There were several death scenes, but I feel like at this point it was also just being like overwhelmed with emotion because I had been reading all of these massive books for what felt like quite a while. So by the time we get to these culminations, it felt really impactful, which felt very emotional. The next question is a book that made you happy, and for this one I've gone with The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. This is one that I just thought was absolutely hilarious, so that made me happy, and then on top of that I buddy read it with my friend Eleanor, which also made me really happy. So everything about this reading experience was just a really fun one. I remember like actually audibly laughing out loud at some of these scenes, not just you like mild chuckle, like actually laughing at this book, and then being able to chat about it with my book bestie, and it was just fantastic. And between the experience being great and the book being great, this one just, every time I think about it, it brings me so much joy. And the very last question is, what are some books that you would like to get to by the end of the year? I would like to continue my read through of Discworld. I am now on book 3, which is Equal Rights. I do need to kind of, I think, hasten up this pace a little bit, but I know that this is the first of the Witches ones, I think, which I am very excited for. We have death in here again, and yeah, I'm just looking forward to continuing on with the series. I think because the second book didn't quite live up to my expectations, I've been putting it off, but I really do want to continue working my way through this world. Another series I'm really eager to get into is I want to get through all of the Mage series books by Stephen Arion. That's 2 trilogies. One is The Age of Darkness and the other is The Age of Dread, and they are set in the same world but 10 years apart, and I really want to just binge my way through all 6 of these. I read the novella that goes before, I think before this one, and I really enjoyed the writing style. I've really enjoyed like a little glimpse of the world that we got, etc. So I'm really excited to continue and get into all 6 of these really soon. And then the last one that I want to get to, because it has been looming on my shelves because I am so intimidated by it. I know it ends on a cliffhanger. I know it keeps destroying people. I was like beginning to overcome my fear of it because like, well, the second book's out now. Turns out the second book also ends on a cliffhanger, but here we are. I do really want to start this series, and that is The Legacy of the Brightwash by Crystal Matar. This is one that I have had on my TBR for I think maybe a year or a year and a half now, and I need to get over my fear of this book and its cliffhanger ending and the possible emotional impact this is going to have on me according to everyone who has read it, and just jump right in and actually get to reading it. And there you have it. That is the mid-year tag. That is some of my thoughts on some of the best and worst, most surprising, most disappointing and anticipated books of the year. Let me know what your best book of the year has been so far, and if you read series or at least have concluded a series, let me know what your favorite series of the year so far is as well. And that is all for me for today, so thank you ever so much for watching, and I will hopefully catch you in another one soon. Bye!